Forget the Red Bull cost cap scandal. Formula 1 is in the grip of a new controversy, and it's possibly the strangest of the season. Alpine is effectively protesting another team's protest after a bizarre situation that meant Fernando Alonso was penalised for a mistake made by the FIA's race control. If you need to rewind that to have another go at that sentence, feel free. F1 has had plenty of disputes this year, but none are quite as peculiar as this. Alpine is attempting to protest the admissibility of the Haas protest that resulted in Alonso receiving a 30-second time penalty and losing a points finish in the United States Grand Prix. Alonso finished 7th on the road at Austin, but was hit with the penalty in lieu of a 10-second stop and go because the stewards ruled his car was not in a safe condition. His right side wing mirror fell off towards the end of the Grand Prix, a legacy of a dramatic incident in which the Alpine was pitched airborne following a high-speed clash with Lance Stroll on the back straight. Haas protested this and a separate incident involving Sergio Perez's Red Bull, which was rejected because it has felt victimised on 3 occasions this year for Kevin Magnussen's car being deemed unsafe when front wing end plate damage has been sustained and he's been forced to pit for repairs. After the second occurrence of that in Hungary, Haas even made an effort to discuss the matter with the FIA to explain why the construction of the wing is safe even when the end plate is partially dislodged. But then Magnussen received another mechanical flag for the same issue in Singapore, so at Austin, Haas felt compelled to act when it felt double standards were at play. The American team reported twice to race control that Alonso's mirror was flapping, and according to the stewards, Haas was told the matter was being looked into. But no instruction was given to Alpine to try to rectify the situation, let alone a mechanical warning flag that would force Alonso to return to the pits. In a surprising criticism of race control, the stewards said they were deeply concerned that Alonso was not given this signal, as the initial flapping of the mirror and the subsequent driving of the car without it were both considered to be unsafe. Despite this, the stewards determined that as it is the responsibility of the team to ensure its cars are in safe condition to be driven, a significant penalty was appropriate for Alonso. The result dropped Alonso to 15th, and though his teammate Esteban Ocon inherited a point for 10th, Alonso's demotion means Alpine's buffer to McLaren in the Constructors' Championship is now just 6 points. Alpine was disappointed by that decision as it contends it acted fairly and deemed the car remained structurally safe in the wake of the Stroll crash. Teams cannot appeal time penalties, so Alpine had to accept the stewards' decision in that regard, but it has found a way to attempt to challenge the outcome. Alpine has protested the admissibility of the original Haas protest on the grounds that it was submitted 24 minutes too late. This was something the stewards considered when assessing the protest to begin with, as they acknowledged both were lodged after the deadline teams have, but applied discretionary authority to accept them, claiming the compliance with the deadline was not possible in this case. So it means we will go to the Mexican Grand Prix weekend with an unresolved issue from last weekend and the bizarre situation of a protest being protested. A hearing will take place at 6 p.m. on Thursday in Mexico via video link to determine if Alpine's protest of a protest is admissible. If it is, then there will be a separate hearing to actually hear the case in full. It's never simple, is it? Alonso reacted to news of the penalty and Alpine's protest by calling F1's direction into question and claiming Thursday will mark an important day for the championship. He issued a short statement on his Instagram account thanking people for messages received on Sunday and Monday and made it clear he was unimpressed with the FIA's decision. Alonso said he felt it was a rare occasion that everybody was aligned about the rules, and we can only assume he meant that everyone is on his side. He also said Thursday's hearing will dictate if we are going in the right direction for the future. While nobody loves a bit of hyperbole more than Fernando Alonso, he is right to suggest this is an important case for the championship. Haas's position is entirely understandable given it stems from frustration about the treatment it has received from race control this year. It certainly has felt a bit like as soon as an opponent radios in that part of a Haas front wing is loose, the team is ordered into the pits. So it's effectively sought clarification and consistency as 3 of its races have been badly compromised by a strict application of the regulations on the grounds of the car's safety being questioned, and it felt this was not the case for Alonso or Perez in the US. Haas also protested Perez's Red Bull for continuing with front wing end plate damage early in the race, although that was thrown out as the end plate broke off and the FIA was satisfied that the wing was completely safe without it. There was no mention of George Russell's Mercedes, which also had minor front wing damage. But the FIA's argument over Perez was hardly the most convincing. In the Alonso judgment, the stewards stressed it's the responsibility of the teams to ensure their cars are safe. By that logic, surely Red Bull should have acted in the couple of laps the end plate was flapping about on Perez's car by pitting him to remove it or replace the wing, as Haas was previously forced to do. If anything, has Haas paid the price here for its wing being so robust that when the end plate gets damaged, it doesn't fall off? And because Red Bull didn't pit Perez initially, does that mean it let its car be driven in an unsafe condition? As you can see, there are inherent inconsistencies here, almost certainly tied to the fact that Niels Wittich was race director in the US, but every time Haas encountered this problem in the past, Eduardo Freitas was running race control. That post-Michael Massey rotation of race directors has now ended, so maybe longer term other trends will emerge and we'll get the consistency the drivers and the teams want. But right now, that doesn't help. The Alonso decision presumably means that any car that sustains wing mirror damage either needs to retire or pit for it to be repaired, however long that takes. Replacing a mirror isn't as easy a job as fitting a new front wing, yet our team's going to have to work up quick replace mirrors now. Looking at the mirror situation in isolation, if they are there for safety, then it feels like an acceptable zero-tolerance policy, even if that would feel harsh for someone in Alonso's situation on Sunday to be denied the chance to put in a mega comeback drive like he did after briefly flying through the air and slamming into a barrier at speed. But the bigger picture is, yet again, the quality of decision-making from officials. Of course it is. The stewards basically penalised Alpine and Alonso for race control not doing its job properly. To paraphrase the stewards' report, this is deeply concerning. And while it might seem a lower order worry, this whole saga sets a precedent for teams pursuing penalties for rivals for racing on with damaged cars unnoticed by the officials. While it's unlikely this would be a particularly common occurrence, it still opens F1 up to more of these drawn-out legal contests and results changing post-race because of tiny infractions. Ultimately, Haas was perfectly within its rights to challenge the FIA given its own experiences this year. But the way this whole situation has been handled has led to an increasingly drawn-out and bizarre scenario that could set some significant precedents for F1.